Hello all, Namaskar. Again, this is Durga Prasad Adhikary with you. So basically, many of you have asked how, sir, we are writing the answers. How do we self-evaluate it? So basically, this is a guide to self-evaluate your answers, and you can see that where all you can do improvements and add values, and whether you are in line with the demands of the UPSC Mains exams. You can also use it for the state PCS exams as well. So basically, before going into the session, that what all we need to check, let us go what exactly UPSC syllabus or the UPSC says about the answer writing thing. So here you can see that this is the mains part, mains examination. So mains examination, this is from the notification itself. So what it is saying, that main examination is intended to assess what the overall intellectual traits. What they are checking is your intellectual trait and also the depth of understanding that you understanding of candidates rather than merely the range of their information and memory. So what UPSC is expecting from you is that you must be knowing one step deeper into the issues and not merely on the superficial levels. That is, for example, if the question is on Russia-Ukraine crisis, so you must not be knowing that the Russia-Ukraine war is happening. Rather, you must be knowing that why the war happened, what are all the reasons, what were the things in the past, what were all the treaties that are into the effect. So this is one thing. And also they are checking your overall intellectual traits. The next thing is that the nature and standard of questions in GS papers will be such that a well-educated person will be able to answer them without any specialized study. So okay, this is fine. They are saying that about newspaper reading and all those things. Basically, I don't want to discuss it as such because the paper is turning to be difficult day by day. So better we need to be more focused on many things that we will discuss. The next thing is that the questions will be such as to test a candidate's general awareness. Here the word is general awareness. So you must have observed that UPSC never asks questions which are very much not in news. They generally take the questions which are in news, like the state of forest report. They are very much in news once they are released. So like we are having a presidential election this year. So the questions might be on the presidential election or the powers of the president. So this is the general awareness of variety of subjects which will have relevance for a career in civil services. Here they are also assessing your qualities and temperament, whether you are suited for civil services or not. So like if you are attempting a paper and you are not writing it completely, that means they say that you are not doing your work properly and you are not. If you are leaving your answer midway, that means it might show a tendency that while you are a civil servant, you might not complete all your assignments. So also in all those papers, if you are writing first few answers very good and the last few answers are a mesh, then it gives the impression to the examiner that this person cannot manage time, which is not a quality that they want to see in civil servants. So these things they want to assess. And then again, the questions are likely to test the candidate's basic understanding of all relevant issues. You must be knowing what are all the relevant issues. The ability to analysis is something that is one step deeper into knowledge. Like for example, we discussed the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Analysis part will come. What all things happened in the past, or what all things that provoked both the nations to go into war. So this is the analysis part. And take a view on conflicting socio-economic goals, objectives and demands. This is something like the basic things like, should we waive the farm loan waiver, should it be banned, and all those things. So these are all the conflicting socio-economic goals, objectives and demands. What UPSC wants, that you have to take a view. The word here is very important, is take a view. You have to take your own stand and stand by it. And again, this is the most beautiful line for this, that is the candidates must give. One is relevant, next is meaningful, third is succinct, whatever you say. That this means that clearly said in few words. That means your answers must be concise, yet they must be clear that what you want to express. So this is all those things. This is not for our need now as such. So basically here you have to give relevant, meaningful and concise answers. This is what is important. So now let us go to the what all things you need to check when you are writing an answer for UPSC. The first thing that I would say is that the general UPSC answer sheet is not like the A4 paper in which we are practicing. The general UPSC answer sheet is a bit different. Like the A4 sheet, the common A4 sheet that we use, it is generally 8.25 into 11.75 inches. However, the UPSC paper size is a bit wider. Like if the A4 paper is like this, UPSC paper would be like this. Here the width is greater, but the length is smaller, and this is A4, this is UPSC. So you can see that the width is greater but the length is smaller. So this part you can check. So what you can say, is there any size wherein we can compare this? Yes, if you have given prelims, it is exactly the size of prelims paper that we get. You will observe that the question paper of prelims is not exactly A4, it is this size. So you must be knowing that while practicing answers, you must be leaving the margins. So you have to practice your answers accordingly, because the A4 size paper, as far as I know, would accommodate more words, and the UPSC paper accommodates a bit lesser word. And here maybe if you will draw a diagram, it will occupy a lot of space, but in UPSC maybe it will occupy a smaller space. So you need to know the orientation of your writings. So now that how do we self-evaluate our own answers? So for me, I used to do all these checks while I write answer, and I self-evaluate it. So the first thing that we have discussed also, the UPSC thing also says that the answers must be relevant. What does relevant means over here? It is was the answer to the point. So this is a very important thing, because for example, if the question given is what are the issues pertaining to the subsidies of WTO, if the question is as such, and you are writing whole of your answers on the WTO itself, then the answer is not to the point. It is on WTO. You are writing answer in WTO, but the answer should be on the issues on WTO and how do you address those. So this is one part. The next part is, have I addressed all parts of the questions? So generally it is said that the basically the UPSC questions might be having 2 to 3 questions. Like for example, the first part would be like, what are the causes of inequality in India? Question mark. And then the same question will continue, and it would be like, that what are all the socio-economic impacts of inequality in India, and address few solutions to resolve them. So here we can see that there are 3 parts. The one part is what are the causes of inequality. The number 2 part is what are the impacts, and number 3 is how do we address them. So you have to address all the parts of the questions, and you should give due respect to each part of the question. It must not be like that is the third point, that it must not be like that you are writing the first part of the question in 75% of the answer space, and the rest 2 questions on 25%. So this would be like you are not giving the requisite space as well as respect to all part of the questions, which will deduct a lot of marks from your answers. Then the another part that we discussed was that the answer should be concise. What exactly is concise? For example, that is what I write, it is crisp, short and sweet. Short, sweet means it must be like to the point, hitting to the point, and it should not be deviating, and yet at the same time it would be using very less words to express it. That does not mean that you will use the language that is very much bombastic, or like that is very much grammarly. Rather you use simple words but write the answers very in a crisp manner. For example, again if you will take the questions on inequality itself. So for example, the best part is corruption. Let us take a question on corruption. Corruption basically means the use of public resource for private gains. You can write this. But here you can also write that corruption is a system wherein one who is in office may try to take advantage of his position, by which he will use money so that the money is not authorized, and blah 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 blah, all those things. This is not crisp. This is like you are dragging the things, right, in a crisp, short and sweet manner. This is the best part. And why I am using the word sweet over here is that the answers must reflect your, because whatever you are writing, it reflects your personality. So if as a person you are very rude, maybe I don't want to say that rude, but if as a person, if you are very, what you say, maybe the people may perceive rude and you are expressing the same in your answer, then it might strike to the examiner that you are very rude. So the answers must be sweet and it must be respectful. For example, if you are writing that Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, please use the word doctor. Don't say that Kalam said all those things. So this is very disrespectful. So you must be using sweet. And the another part is the coherence part. Coherence, what exactly is coherence? Coherence means when you are writing paragraph 1 and you are going to paragraph 2, there must be linking thing over here. You should not be writing like that. But in the first paragraph, you are writing that India got independence in 1947, and this is this. In the next paragraph, you are directly coming that toy industry in India is this. So here you see that the first part is all about the independence of India and freedom, and the next part you are directly jumping to the toy industry and all those things in industry. They are not linked. So give a line which will link all those things. So the answers, the changing of the paragraphs must be very smooth and very agile, so that while the examiner, while reading the answers, would not feel irritated. The moment you irritate the examiner, your marks are going to get lost. So this is the thing. And what I'm saying to say that the answers must be natural and not mechanical. It must not be like that. For example, for corruption, you have read a term that, for example, Gandhiji said this. Just because you have read Gandhiji about corruption, you should not put Gandhiji on every question on corruption. For example, maybe Gandhiji said is ahimsa paramo dharma, something like that. That non-violence is the greatest dharma. Just because you know that, don't put on every question of Gandhi this thing. For example, it might be asked the question that what are the views of Gandhiji on women? And here you cannot write that ahimsa paramo dharma, we should not do violence and all those things, we must not this thing, cowardice, this thing. If you want to link, you link that maybe when you are doing women, this is the cowardice and all those things, you may link that, but don't directly write that ahimsa paramo dharma. So somewhere I feel you can understand what I am trying to say. If you are writing something which is relevant, please link it with the answers, and don't write something that you have read and you are putting it over here. So next, again, the another part of the question that you can check, that is the answer holistic and multidimensional. Again, the very best example that I use over here is, for example, women empowerment. When you are talking about women empowerment, just don't talk about the material empowerment. Also include the mental empowerment. Material empowerment means it is economic, social, political, all those things are material empowerment, where you are materially empowering the woman. But however, please add the term here, the mental empowerment, that is the psychological empowerment. For example, there are many cases wherein the girl child have all the resources, yet they are very fearful. We have heard a lot of cases wherein the women CEOs of the companies, who are very much affluent in all the money, economic and prestige and all, they are facing domestic violence in the house. This is something because they are not mentally empowered. They don't have the confidence that they can tackle the male. So for example, that's why we need the psychological empowerment also. Here you are making the answers multidimensional. We also have the approach like the PESTEL. For example, P is for political, economic, social, technological, environmental, legal. All those things are there. So these will make your answers multidimensional. For example, don't only use one dimension and write all your answers. For example, I again use the very good example, that is the corruption. The corruption can occur at multiple levels. And there are many things. That one is collusive corruption and there is coercive corruption. For example, coercive corruption is, I don't want to give the money, but I am forced to pay. This is coercive corruption. And there is collusive corruption, when both parties are agreeing to each other so that they both will have benefit. So these all things will make your answer holistic and multidimensional. That means see the answers from all the viewpoints and you will get what the answer should have. This part is I feel it is one of the most important part and one of the most mark fetching part, that is the value addition points. What exactly is the value addition points? You must include value addition points in your answers. For example, a diagram, a fact, a quote, a figure, a graph, book reference, thinker, Sanskrit slokas, excerpts, Supreme Court judgment, committees. For example, like you are getting a question on relation between poverty and health. You can draw a diagram over here, that something like this. I'm drawing a diagram over here, something like this. That this is poverty, nutritional insecurity, less immunity, low health, high medical expenditure, and again leading to poverty. This is a very beautiful diagram. You can draw it over and your for a question on poverty and medical health. For example, put a fact: how many percentage of Indians don't have this thing, are subjected to non-communicable diseases and all those things. You can put a quote that health is the greatest asset a man has. If health is lost, everything is lost. Something like that. A figure you can put. You might be doing any figure. For example, if there is a question on the phosphorus cycle, sulfur cycle, oxygen cycle, put a figure. For graph, for example, this year last year in the mains, I used the graph. For example, if I'm not wrong, there is a question that whether the role of parliament is decreasing. For there, you can put a graph that see in 2014 or something, this much bills were referred to committees, now this much bill is done, and all those things. For example, Supreme Court pending cases, you can see that in this year this was the pending cases, in next year in next year this is in the first case, in the next year this much, and then the third year this much. So there is an increasing trend. You can use the graph. Now again, there is an important thing that is called book reference. Book reference, you can use it very sparsely, don't overdo it. That is, for example, there is a book called The Sixth Extension by Elizabeth Colbert. So here it is about, you can use it in the questions on climate change, on environmental pollutions, on anthropological effects on environment changes. So you can use those book reference. There are many books: Annihilation of Caste by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, My Experiments with Truth by Gandhiji, Discovery of India by Pandit Nehru, and many other books. Like the books that are mostly used now that are by Yuval Noah Harari, like the Homo sapiens and all those things you can use. Then again is the thinker, whatever we have discussed, that you can put Shankaracharya, you can put Plato, you can put Aristotle, you can put Gandhiji, Ambedkarji, Nehruji, Patelji, anyone over here, Boseji. Now again, the third part is this, another part is the Sanskrit Sloka. Sanskrit Sloka, for example, if there is a question on environment, what I have discussed in the channel as well, that is, you can write Prakriti Rakshate Rakshitoho. If you save the environment, you yourself will be saved. So these all things will change the flavor of your answers. They will bring a very finer element in your answer. Then another is the excerpts. Like for example, what anyone has said, what reference you are taking from a book or any thinker's big part. A quote is different and excerpt is different. This is a much more like, for example, you can quote excerpt from a report also. Then another is the Supreme Court judgment. Supreme Court judgments adds a very beautiful charm to your answers. It substantiates your answer. For example, the Bombay judgment on federalism. For example, Navtej Singh Johar judgment. So all these judgments you can put in your answers, generally for GS paper 2. Then we have committees. Committees like we have Kiran Agarwal committee, we have Rangarajan committee, we have whatnot, we have Gulshan Rai committee. If you put these things in your answers, it will bring a flavor to your answer. Next is you should check again whether your answer is non-controversial, positive and optimistic. For example, now due to many things, many times due to our personal biases, we write controversial statements. Don't write any overtly controversial statement in your answer. No matter to whom you are affiliated, to whom you are biased, to whom, give due respect to each and every person, and don't write any controversial statement in your answer. And your answers must reflect positivity and optimism, because as I said, your answers reflect what you are. And the bureaucracy wants a person who is positive and optimist with high emotional intelligence. So this will help you in fetching more marks. Then the last part, what I feel is that you must give more and more examples, substantiation and justification. For example, if I am writing that the government must increase facilities for women child delivery and all those things, here I can quote that Odisha government has a scheme of Mamta Yojana. So somewhere like this, use the schemes. Here you can use the schemes as well. Schemes. So there are a lot of things that you can add in value addition, because it is a very open and innovative field. You can add many more things. I might have left many things. So here you have to substantiate by fact, substantiate by argument, substantiate by what one expert says. Here you can use the expert opinion as well. So examples are must needed. For example, if you are writing like minor forest produce, the tribals would get the minor forest produce. Don't just stop at minor forest produce, right? For example, tribals would get the minor forest produce, MFPs. For example, like the lac, like the wild honey. So like the honey as well. So anything like the barks, like the fruits. So you can write like the woods. Like you add 2 to 3 examples. This will give an impression to the examiner that this student is not just throwing the answers, yet he knows. Because what you have discussed over here, that they want to know that you are not only remembering information and memory, rather you have the depth of understanding. And the depth of understanding comes when you are able to apply the application part, and you are able to take your judgment over that. So basically I feel that you must check whether you have all these 9 things. And maybe some more would come. I will tell that later, maybe, if I remember. But you have to check whether you have addressed all these 9 things. Whether your answer is relevant, you have addressed all parts of the questions. Have you given requisite space and respect to all parts of the question? Is your answer concise, sweet and short? Is your answer coherent? Is your answer holistic and multidimensional? Whether you have added value addition points that are necessary. Like one point of caution about value addition points: don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. Use it only when it is needed. don't overdo it. For example, you need not to put diagrams over in every questions where it is not relevant. This will come only once you are using it, and you must say, you must feel that whether someone is given this answer and given to you to check, would you have appreciated that diagram in that place, or would you have think that he is just showing off by doing all these diagrams? You are yourself the best guide, and once you are reading more and more, referring to more topper copies, you will understand the where to draw and where not to draw. And this thing is also very important. The more examples that you put, the more marks you get. This is undoubtable. For example, you are telling that you can use lidar tube for landslide prevention, right? That USA uses lidar. And one more thing that I feel that I must write in value addition point, that is best practices. Best practices is a very important field. Please write best practices wherever possible. You can also write case studies. See, a lot of things are there. I'm just remembering one by one thing. You can, while you are writing an answer, while this is the paper you are writing the answer, please, you can draw a small diagram over here, small space over here. You can write case study, and you can see that in the village of Odisha, in the village of Andhra Pradesh, this thing. In the village of Kerala or Tamil Nadu, we discussed the Mikosams meal scheme. In this thing, the Mikosams meal scheme is done due to which the empowerment has done this much. This is a case study. Put it over here. You will get 1.5 to 1 mark extra. That's it. So this is all. That whether this question is given, everyone will write the same content, but whether you are writing something extra, that proves that you are doing application part also. This will add some more answers. So you can do all these things. Some other checks that I see, that this is about the aesthetic part. Like for example, you are writing the answers. It must be very clean and neat. It must be aesthetically pleasing. Like you are putting that subheadings over here, one diagram over here, an Indian map over here. This must look aesthetic pleasing. Don't cross or anything or do this thing and write over here. Try to avoid as much as possible because it will irritate the examiner. Then if possible, please name the diagram. For example, you are writing that ring of fire is this one, this is ring of fire. Please write over here, figure, ring of fire. This will take maybe 5 seconds extra, but this is good. It shows the professional way of writing. Then the handwriting must be clear and legible. Bad handwriting is fine because you can change. If possible, please change. That will always help. But the answer must be legible. And the last thing is that the conclusion, introduction and body must be coherent. The conclusion must be optimistic. You should not repeat all those things. Rather, you must be writing optimistic. Here I have said use the SDG, the DPSP. All those things you can use. Please add over here SDG and DPSP as well. See, a lot of things are there. You have to master over all these things. Don't get fear. And in introduction, please write something that is related to current relevance. For example, that if a question this year comes about the election of the president or something, please write that in 2022 the presidential elections were held. So if you write this, then the examiner will know that. Then the examiner will know that you are able to know why this question has been asked. This question has been asked because the presidential election were held recently. For example, if you get a question on maybe a current event like a fire accident that is happening, please write that in the Delhi, in the Munirka area, fire accident happened which claimed this much life, has brought the incident of fire safety to the nationwide importance, something like that. So this will make the examiner sure that you are aware of all those things and you have an understanding of all those things. And the body part we have discussed as such. The last part that I would want to say, this is the most important part and this is the most neglected part. For example, you are writing the answer over here. If the examiner starts reading from here, he comes and he ends up here and he feels that you have written good content and all, and in not even once during the checking of the answer he feels that he is irritated, rather he enjoys reading your question, even though you might missed some of the big points, then also you will get very good marks, because the examiner is not irritated and what he will remember is that I enjoyed reading the answer. That's why please award him 6 or 6.5 out of 10. But if you are writing very good answers but you are crisscrossing it, changing it, the paragraph shifts are not very easier, and the examiner at each point of time is getting irritated. He came here, you are writing very good points, now you are studying a new point which is not relevant, then the examiner will get irritated, and each time the examiner get irritated, please deduct 0.5 to 1 marks over there. and you will get very less mark, although your content would be much greater than this. This is the word of caution. This is the word of what you say, practical relevance that you must remember while writing the answers. Again, I must say, mains is not a test only of your intelligence, but it is also the test of your presence of mind. Because many times you will get the questions that are not in the answers. So please be prepared how to write. And I want to say that these are all the things from where by which you can check your answers whether they are up to date or not. So now the question comes, how do we know that what are all value addition things are there or not? You have written an answer, you are checking over all these things. So you remember only 2 value addition points and you have written that. So how do you know that whether there are more or not? So please write an answer, maybe previous your questions, and then go to Google and then check. Or you may refer your notes or any topper copy and see what all extra things they have written, they could have written for the same answer. And please write all those things. Note it down and see where all it can be used. And I always insist that please prepare some of the multidimensional points that can be replicated in a lot of answers. For example, if you remember that there is Padma Shri Bhakti Yadav, madam. So she was one of the most philanthropic gynecologists that the India has ever had. She has done a lot of deliveries free of cost. So you can use this example in the questions on compassion. You can use this example on the questions of women empowerment. You can use this on lot of other questions like women education. She had the courage to be the first doctor. In fact, he said that she's one of the first doctors of India with all these degrees. So she had the courage of that. So this is the you can show it as the conviction. You can see it for women empowerment. You can see it for girl child health improvement. So this is what is a multidimensional example, multidimensional points. Further, you need to work upon frameworks. We will discuss that later. What all frameworks are there? How you can multidimensionally use it even in the later stage. So basically, I feel I have done my part. So these are all the broad points wherein you need to evaluate your answers. Please check whether you are writing all those things. Please, and one thing I would say, if you are writing an answer, please read it after a day and again after a day, and you will feel that what are wrongs you have done. Because it is a human tendency that generally we feel that the answer we have written after much struggle is the best answer and no one could write a better answer than that. But once after a few days, if you see the same answer, you will feel that it has a lot of deficiencies. And more you practice, you will feel there are more deficiencies which you can put in effort to close the gap. And that is what is the real improvement in the answer writing. And this is which will help you get more marks. So this is all what I wanted to say. I feel it might have helped you, and this is the way in which you can self-evaluate your answer. I feel this might have been a very long session. I wanted to complete it early, but I feel that I must say everything to you so that you can, with reason, so that you will be able to truly appreciate it and replicate in the answers. And that's it. That's what I wanted to say. Thanks a lot for being there, and hope that it has helped. And I'll put the PDF in the channel as well. And if you feel there is anything more I can do, please do inform me. Thanks a lot. Namaste. Namaste.